K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those who will take. Attorney General's lying even while...
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, folks. Well, happy Monday evening. That's right. It's Monday. We've made it through another one. Before we get too far in, I want to give a quick shout-out to the affiliates. I want to give a quick shout-out to High Point Radio out of New Jersey. Also, Red State Radio. And, of course, AMFM247.com and our home station, K98Talk.com, as well as the network that I own and run, the Spark Radio Network. So I do hope everybody's had a great Monday. I would like to take a second before we bring the guest on to say good evening to my usual Monday co-host. Actually, I guess for you it's still afternoon, but how are you, Jared?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Rick?
Actually, not too good. I've actually been sick most of the day today, but you know me, the show must go on. So actually, we might as well just get into it. We do have a special guest with us going to be hanging out for the entirety of the show. Actually, one of the, I believe, the mastermind behind one of our newest sponsors, concealandcarry.net. Hey, Chris, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody, say good evening to all the listeners and tell everybody what it is, what you do, and all that fun stuff that we talked about before the show.
Thanks, Rick. Well, it's my first time on the show, and I'm definitely a cohort in arms in what we're going on right now with conservative being an issue across the nation. My site is called the Conceal and Carry Network. People can find it by going on www.conceal-carry.net. And what we are, basically, it's like an information hub for the firearms industry. We've got like 64,000 businesses that you can do searches for to find an FFL dealer nationwide. And we really stretched into being a conservative voice for our industry. We also help people with credit card processing that's farm-friendly, and we help people set up their websites if they need that help. So we're kind of in a little bit of everything to help the conservative side of this industry.
It definitely sounds like you guys have got a lot going on. I have to admit, I actually have spent quite a bit of time on your site lately. I do like the fact, I kind of dig it, that you can go in there and basically, no matter what state you're in, you can click on it, and it'll just basically tell you what's available in your area. That's actually one of the first things that turned me on to your site. Well, not only that, but your appearance on Red Nation Rising Radio recently.
I think we're probably one of the bigger contributors as far as putting information out there. I look at it as kind of like the librarian with a lot of information. I like collecting it. I love sharing it.
I would say you're definitely doing a pretty good job of that. Now, I do know that one of your big things, of course, because you keep mentioning that you're big in the firearms industry and pretty conservative about it. So I know that one of your big things is two-way. What are some of your concerns right now with the government and the direction they're going with the whole Second Amendment?
Well, it's especially with this last shooting that we've had to lose 4 heroes in one shot. It really breaks my heart. My son is military. My son is an active MP in Fort Hood right now. We've had 2 shootings right now that have been in the last history of Fort Hood. You've got these last 4 heroes that were murdered down by radical Islamics. My concern right now is if people are not caring to defend themselves, we're in high danger, and it's not going away. And right now, if you're not caring and you don't have a legal firearm to carry, it's time to start getting you a gun and getting prepared. We're not sitting here to be active. Oh, how would you say this? We're not looking to be putting more guns on the street for gun's sake. We're looking at having more people that are defending themselves, ready to take care of themselves, because you can't depend on the police or the government to defend yourself.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things that I see all the time is a lot of these memes that are going around are stupid things like it's got the gun with the line through it, and it says, you don't need this because you've got me, and it's a police officer standing there. And I'm thinking, by that same logic, you're telling me that I shouldn't have a fire extinguisher in my home, because I don't need one, because I've got the fire department. But when you try to point things like that to people and say, look, it's really no different than this scenario. The fire department is there if you need them, but you also know it may take them a while to get to you, so you'd at least like to be able to at least start fighting the blaze on your own, should one start, and it's something simple like a grease fire or a trash fire, instead of waiting until the fire department get there and virtually you have half or most of your house gone. To me, it's the same situation. To be saying that we don't need firearms because we have law enforcement is completely crazy. And the thing that drives me nuts is now, you have for the last several years, that's been the argument. Now that they've gotten the majority of the people touting that argument and saying, well, yeah, we don't need guns because we've got cops. Now they're openly and blatantly attacking the cops at every point in turn. Seems like there's an agenda.
There is. It's almost like a no-win scenario. But you got to understand too, we're not talking to people that live on logic. The difference between a conservative and a liberal is the conservative side has a compelling argument that has facts, figures, and history, and the liberal side is all emotions. Oh, but I feel this way. Oh, but you offend me because it looks that way. Oh, because. And there's really nothing but straw arguments. If you listen to people on the liberal side, there's not meat and potatoes. It's all feelings and fluff.
I'm not going to say that happens all the time, but I do agree with you. About 90% of the time, it seems like most of the liberal population seems like they dwell on emotions. Now, you brought up the incident in Chattanooga earlier. Now, I'm actually going to ask this question to both of you, because so far we haven't heard much from Jared. Is it just me, or does making a military base a gun-free zone seem like a contradiction in terms?
Well, I'll go first. I probably have a short answer, but the whole concept of a gun-free zone in itself is devoid of all logic. So if you put the component of a military base on top of that, it almost is mind-blowing how idiotic a decision that is to have that policy in effect, and that we all have to go through each state and change the laws for it. It's very sad, and it's disgraceful, really, as a country that military recruiting stations and bases are unarmed. It really is.
It doesn't make any sense. I'm agreeing with you, Jared. The thing that you do, we take these young men and young women out. We train them how to properly use the weapons that they have at hand. We send them out to areas that are in conflict to defend our Second Amendment and our, keep the peace of the country. We bring them home and says, oh, can't have your guns. Put your guns away because in this area, on this base, you cannot carry a weapon. It's ludicrous. And we're putting our people in harm's way, especially when we're a country now that has radical Islam that has painted us with a target on our back. We're taking all the tools away from our young people and our military to defend themselves when they rightfully are trained to.
Right. And radical Islam lives in every state now. Even our own federal government confirms that I think it was 49 states have at least a few Islamists that they know of. So you can multiply that for sure.
It's interesting.
I think it was just recently Irving had the Sharia law incident where the mayor had to come down and says there's only one law of the land, and it's the Constitution, and we'll only live by that.
It's interesting that you guys bring up the whole Islam and the fact that we're pretty sure we have sleeper cells in at least 49 out of 50 states at this point. Actually, we're going to have some folks on with us tomorrow that are actually pretty versed in that type of stuff. Don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They actually run their own show. It's called Voices of Global Freedom Radio. They actually have spent the better part of 30 years in the whole counterterrorism and terrorism fields, and they're actually going to be on with me for the whole hour tomorrow to talk about a movement that they're trying to get going. So it's interesting that you guys bring that up, because they're one of the first folks that I started hearing from about how bad it actually is. Because, the mainstream media won't tell you how bad it is because they don't want you to know. But the simple fact of the matter is we pretty much have folks that are ready to kill us pretty much in every single state now.
The Garland, Texas shooters lived 6 miles from my house. The mosque was 1.5 miles from my house. That tells you how close. And I'm sure we all have people we know that are that close,
Well, let's also make a differentiation here. I've got Muslims that are friends, long friends, been friends, always friends, love these people. What we're not saying is that anybody that worships the Islam faith or is Muslim is our enemy. That is not the case. It's just the people on the fringe, the radical, that look at us as the infidel that want us dead. That's the only people that we're concerned about at this time, not the masses, but the fringe that actually puts a bullseye on our backs.
I'm a little concerned about the moderate Muslims, as they call them, because if there were Christians running around in little groups that were cutting people's heads off, I would expect I'm Christian, I would expect myself and anyone I know to get together and stop radical Christianity. It would be our responsibility as Christians to stop the radical element. I understand why they're scared of the extremists. I mean, they're scary people, but they do not speak out against them enough. They don't take any action, and I agree with you. There's so many that are just peaceful, but they have a responsibility. This is where my argument is a little controversial. They have a responsibility to do something about their own radical element in their religion, just like I truly believe Christians would deal with the radical fringe if there was that much terrorism, you know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, we have though. I mean, we have a fringe movement out there that I think should be stripped of the title Baptist, because they don't align themselves with Baptists very well. But we have a pretty vocal fringe movement that likes to protest funerals and everything else. I know plenty of Christians that rise up anytime they try to do anything stupid. That's been one of my arguments the entire time. Is I know there are these peaceful, moderate Muslims. I have coworkers that have been Muslims. I got along with them well. We talk during work. So I mean, they seem like everyday human beings. But at the same time, when things like this happen, they remain silent, and I don't understand that. I'm not trying to judge them because I don't live in their world, but I don't understand how if someone has basically hijacked your religion and turned it into something that you believe is completely different, I don't understand how so many of them can remain silent, because the simple fact of the matter is it's no different than it is with Christianity. The folks that are the real extremists are a very small population, and when they start rearing their heads, we're usually the first ones going, hey, no, those people do not represent what I believe Christ is trying to teach, so no, I don't have any interest in dealing with those people. So I don't know, that's been one of my arguments all along, so I kind of agree with you as well there, Jared.
You know, it's funny, history, they say if you don't learn by history, you'll repeat it. And like I said, not that it's exactly related, but when you had the Nazis, you had 5 or 10% that were Nazis and the rest of the 90% followed, but you had a country pay the entire price. It could very well be on our horizon that that's coming down our way, and we kind of be the vocal side, not the silent side of this argument. Now, I'm with you guys on that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm pretty set in the fact that at some point we're going to have history start repeating itself, and I think it's going to come in a large fact because of this whole vocal Muslim extremist movement. That's one of the things that concerned me about this Iran deal that recently came to fruition. We're basically giving folks that have no other goals in life but to wipe out us and Israel and bring about what they consider the caliphate, which is basically by their religious text, if they bathe the world in enough blood, their Messiah is going to come back. We've now basically handed them a blank check. I have a problem with that.
I second that motion. And
Yeah,
then the people that
too.
hate us worse than the entire world, we've just given billions of dollars. And where's it coming? It's coming back to the United States in blood.
And then, whose money that is? That debt eventually will be paid by taxpayers. I don't think our debt will ever be paid, but that money isn't coming. That money is coming off the backs of taxpayers if it is paid. And all, to the last comment, we're lucky that we were blessed by God with natural rights like the Second Amendment, because in these times that we're in this country, it is moving quickly to the point where that right will be used more than ever since the country's founding. I just think that we're blessed here because we're the only country that the citizens will be able to defend themselves against radical Islam. Look what happens. The police in France can't even carry a gun when ISIS was shooting up the Charlie Hebdo. They probably ride around on bikes carrying a stick or something. You know what I mean?
Suddenly, I have.
Well, they tried that in Texas and they got chalk marks. So I would say that we need more of that going on and quick response with people. Thank God the police from the right place and good actions were going on there.
Yeah. So we do have a much better chance in other countries as far as defending our families, ourselves, our towns, and rooting out the evil that's flooding in mostly through the southern border, And I'm not talking about any race, because I'm mainly talking about a radical element that is going to do violence, whether it's criminals from South American, Central American countries, but more specifically, radicalized Muslims that are coming over quite easily. Do you agree with that?
I would. I would say this. Here's the thing that you run into as we get older, and we're sitting here we've got family. We may have grandkids. We as the guys are the ones that are supposed to defend our family. If you find yourself going out to the movie theater and you guys are going out there, and some guy breaks in with a gun, starts shooting people, are you going to be a sheep or a sheepdog? I pray that if I'm going to someplace, if I'm not the only one there that's armed, I pray somebody else is too, and that we're able to stop these crazed people before they just have murdered so many people that you can't even count them. It's happened time and time and time again, and it's only when Americans realize you've got to arm yourself, train yourself, and continuously carry. Pray you don't need it, but God willing, if something came up, you're ready, you're armed, and you can defend your own self and the people around you.
in the gun-free zone, the killings with these lunatic people from our own country who are always on psychotropic drugs and have already showed signs that they're a nut job, they choose gun-free zones to carry these out. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. And, I hope there's people armed everywhere I go. But if you happen to go somewhere in a city that has gun-free zones in public places, and it really presents a problem. So I think that's a huge obstacle and a huge fight that we have to push that message through and try and change that.
Okay, well,
it would help if there was a national reciprocity, where if you were legal in Texas or you were legal in Florida or you were legal in Arizona, that you could go to any state because you've got a legal right to carry, that it would be borderless. But sadly, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, and honestly, with as many people as anti-gun as they are, I don't think we'll ever actually get there. But this is something that I bring up to both of you specifically. I know here in my home state, these gun-free zones, if you happen to carry a firearm into a gun-free zone, which I am not admitting that I have done, for the record, the most you can be charged with is trespassing. So you might want to check your local laws and find out what the applicable laws are there, because I know plenty of people, some of them which actually announce on the air live, one of the guys at the morning show here on KTOK actually tells people every day he brings his gun into work every single day. All of his bosses knows that he has it, and they've basically told him that if he ever has to use it, he's going to be cited for trespassing, and then told he has to put the gun in the car.
I accept that problem.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what he said. Look, a trespassing ticket versus me or somebody else not getting to go home, yeah, I think I could deal with that. And I mean, I'm kind of the same way. If there's a posted no weapons sign and I happen to be carrying, then I'm just going to be like, meh, as long as you can't see it, you don't know nothing. I'm just saying.
Well, living in Texas, we've just gone, or actually, God love him, we've had Abbott come in as our new governor, love him to death. The first thing he brings in is open carry. Now here's where I feel like that. I am more of a believer in concealed carry for my own personal taste. Do I like the idea of open carry? If you want to. I support it. I'm glad he passed it. I personally will not be advertising I'm carrying a gun, because I don't want the first thing I hear is, boom, there it went. I'd rather have some kind of protection, because somebody may not know that I'm armed, for my own extra second or two. But I'll tell you what, I am so happy we've got Abbott that's even trying to bring in constitutional carry that didn't go this time, but probably will next time. But the more we do to get back to the original core of the Second Amendment, I think the better we'll all be.
Yeah, we've actually had open carry here for a while. I still personally only when I carry, I conceal. That's just my personal preference. I mean, because I'm not in uniform anymore, so I'm not walking around with a target on my chest or on my back, and I prefer to keep it that way.
Absolutely, because I mean, if you're actually open carrying, you may never hear the bullet that killed you, because they saw you before you saw them.
Yeah, and that's actually been one of my arguments the whole time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad they have it, and for everybody who wants to open carry, I'm glad you have that opportunity. But don't feel bad if I don't, because you're probably going to go down before I do. Just saying.
Well, I'm 100% for their rights, too. There was recently a deal when all the shooting went down and you had the 4 heroes that were killed. There was a recent article about just a civilian that went out with his AR-15 and stood in front of these recruiting stations with AR-15 armed, ready to protect our guys. And I was saying, heck yes, awesome, salute the guy, because that's what a patriot looks like.
Definitely.
Actually, I hadn't heard of that story, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that actually is pretty awesome that somebody said, hey, yeah, you know what, screw it, I've got a gun, I'm going to go protect these guys since they can't do it themselves. That's pretty awesome, especially since you know that these are the same guys that at one point or another were putting their lives on the line for you every day. So that's actually a pretty good story. I wish I'd heard more about that.
Well, there was actually 2 separate cases in 2 separate parts of the country.
I heard the most recent thing I heard about somebody exercising open carry was in I guess, in more of a liberal state, and they weren't exactly very happy about it. Guy marching around out front of a school with like an AR-15 or something. And of course, all the media came out and they talked about the fact that the guy was peacefully taken into custody and yada yada. And if it had been a black person, he would have been shot and killed. And I'm just like, why does everything got to be about color? I don't understand that anymore either.
Politics. We had a guy walk in the airport with a AR-15 on his shoulder. He was a prominent doctor in Phoenix, and he thought that he could walk right on the plane with it. And he found out he couldn't.
Probably found out the hard way.
Yeah, they showed, news clips, and he wasn't trying to. Afterwards, he said he was trying to make a point or something, and I never really found out what the point of that could be, but the only point it proved to me is that, the cops didn't, they just told him to put the gun down. He put it down. There was no problem. Usually if you do what a cop says, you're not going to get killed. You might go to jail, but you're not going to get killed.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of this is coming up, is you're having people that are not going peacefully and letting the court resolve this out, and then it turns to bloodshed when it could have been 100% avoided. Even if the cops are 100% wrong, don't get them to kill you. Go fight your day in court. Live the next day on this thing because you're probably in the right. Might even get a cash settlement.
Yeah.
Can I give you guys my 2 cents on that? Because with the more of this that we see, I have a running theory with this, and so far I haven't been able to be proven wrong. I think a lot of what's happening with these folks that are standing up to the cops every 30 seconds, whenever they do that, I think it's because that's the behavior that's worked for them in the home. They have parents that if they buck up to them and they scream at them long enough, they will back down. So in public, that's the behavior that they're used to. So when they encounter an authority figure, they try to mimic that same behavior, not realizing that these people don't have the option to back down when you act like an idiot. So all you're doing is making a bad situation worse.
Well, I think that you hit on something but miss a factor of it, because you said parents, and unfortunately, sad truths, statistics show that unfortunately our black, brothers and sisters in our country are generally raised by one parent, and usually a woman, and generally the father figure is the curbs, is the guideline, and is the borders that we teach our kids of what you can and cannot do, and that is a factor that's missing in the black environment today, sadly.
Yeah, I said corrected. That is actually a good correction. But yeah, that's just been my whole running theme, is because if you look at the whole incident in Ferguson, the guy basically bucked up to the store clerk, got what he wanted, and left. When the cops started trying to talk to him because he was dumb enough to not use the crosswalk, he bucked up to him, and then things got worse, and then the cop was like, "Oh, I think I know who you are now," and then it got even more worse. And so instead of dealing with the consequences of his actions, he starts trying to fight the cop for the gun. And then, of course, you guys know the rest of the story because, Eric Holder found grounds to call the entire police department racist and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. When, I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the most racially motivated administrations, I guess is a nice way to put it.
Racially charged.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, it just seems like they're just always everything with them is about race. Which I think is funny, because if you flash back to 2008, he was talking about how he was going to be the one to bring the country together. And all he's managed to do is tear it even further apart. And yet somehow he got a second term. Go figure.
Well, we also don't have rules of law anymore, because that's the one thing of different branches of government. The DOJ is supposed to be the legal hand, the legal strength of our country. And right now you've got people like Hillary that have broke the law, and more other ones that we can count that probably are to the point of a criminal, got people killed, don't even get a slap on the hand because the attorneys of our country that represent our country are in the pocket of the president. We can't win until we get this president out, a real president in with some conservative values, a patriot that loves this country and wants this country to succeed and get better, and then get a judicial system that will come behind this thing and actually keep the rule of law. That's our only chance to stay good as a country.
Right. Our justice system is the most partisan justice system in recent history. I heard people say that. I looked at he just everything was politics, and then everything was race. It was, every speech he made, he had to weave that in, and Justice Department is not supposed to be partisan, and it just speaks more to the way that the branches of government aren't balanced. All three branches are not balanced the way they were meant to be. They're way out of balance.
Yeah, I mean, they used to be co-equal branches of government, checks and balances, all that fun stuff. I don't even know what you would consider them anymore, because they just...
Well, the executive branch has grabbed too much power since the early 1900s, Woodrow Wilson and even Teddy Roosevelt. And now we have the Supreme Court pretty much writing law or legislating from the bench, doing the work of Congress. So some people don't agree with that statement, but I don't see it any other way. The balance of power is way off. The president, one man, should not have that much power to do what he does, and it's not just him. Every year, there's every term, there's a new precedent set by the president. Whatever party it is, they expand it every time.
Well, yeah, and that's actually been going on for quite some time, and you're right, it did start about with Woodrow Wilson. But at this point, it is about time for us to take a quick break. Actually, this one, since we didn't take the one for the first part of the show, and we won't be taking any other one than this one. This one will run for about 4 minutes and 16 seconds. But we'll be right back here in just a couple seconds. You are listening to America Off the Rails. I'm Rick Robinson. Sitting in with me today is Jared J., and of course, the creator of the ConcealedCarry.net network, Chris. And we'll be right back.
Red Nation Rising brings you Town Hall Radio.
From a single tweet to 3 million a month, our community is a force to be reckoned with on social media.
So don't miss our show, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Our chat room is our co-host, and you ask the question.
Join us and be heard.
So get ready to sound off on Red Nation Rising Radio. No one else is going to do it for you.
There's a wild, wild whisper blowing in the wind, calling out my name like a long lost friend.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members, of their families or their children, asking them to deploy, patrol, stay on watch, on point, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to bring them all the way home, to keep them secure, to have their backs for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs do whatever it takes to help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Find out how you can help at findwwp.org.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of libertative conservatism.
Where no one is safe, no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right round.
Ebola
Anyway.
radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com.
All right, folks, we're back. We're live. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We're about halfway through the show. So as we continue, we're actually going to change gears a little bit. I figure we've got to talk about it. I haven't had a chance to really talk about it yet because I hadn't done a show since Thursday, because in between all the interviews and everything else, I decided to take Friday night off. Got a chance to go meet my granddaughter for the first time. She'd been around for a month, and I hadn't even got a chance to go see her yet, so I figured Friday was as good a time as any. But while I was taking the time off to get ready for Saturday's show and then to see my granddaughter, this whole story with Trump started breaking loose. I think it was sometime Saturday, actually, if memory serves, where basically he is quoted as saying that, John McCain may be a war hero, but I prefer the war heroes that didn't get captured. Yeah, I gotta say, I've listened to it, and again, I think I know what he was trying to say, but this guy has a real penchant for shoving his foot really far in his mouth. It's just... And don't get me wrong, I don't like McCain. I cannot support the majority of his policies. I was really disappointed with him when he won his last election by saying, hey, vote for me and I'll finish the fence. And then 2 weeks after he swore back in again, he's like, what fence? I'm old. I don't remember what I said. So I don't like McCain in a professional manner as far as how he's running things as a senator. But I don't really think anybody should have said, hey, he's not really a war hero because he got captured. I don't know. Am I being too simplistic, maybe? Somebody help me out here, because I'm really trying to understand.
Well, yeah, I think you're being too simplistic. First of all, the first thing that comes to mind, he didn't even serve in the military. So as far as I'm concerned, he has no right to criticize him about that. The fact that he was a POW makes it even worse. And like you said, he may not have meant it as a malicious way, but it certainly is easy to take it into that context. So yeah, either his foot was really stuffed in his mouth, or he dislikes McCain even more than, I don't know, the average person. So I think you're right on with that. I pretty much feel the same way. I probably have a little more disdain for John McCain because he's in my state and I've extensively studied his past now, and I've found a lot of things that are very disturbing.
Well, he's disturbing, and a lot of his decisions have been counter-American. And, he's so far on the left side of the conservative movement that you really feel like you're dealing with a liberal anyway. Now, does that mean we should attack him based on his history in the military? I think that's really been a thing that Trump has done that's really going to alienate a lot of the conservatives he needs to be talking to, because I'm not in the military, my son is. I'm extremely patriotic, and there's nothing I would do to hurt or put any black eye on the military in any form whatsoever. And I do not like McCain in the very least. I have studied his history, his military past and stuff, and where I might have derogatory things to say, I'll reserve them, because I think that we need to at least respect our men that did serve in the military, because a whole lot of them did not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's my biggest thing with Trump. It would be different if he was coming from the perspective of a fellow serviceman and making statements like that. I mean, because just like Jared, when we had Dr. A on, what was it, last week? And he was talking about the fact, hey, you know what, I cannot stand McCain as far as his policies, but he will always and forever be a brother of mine because of his naval service. And he's actually spoken to him personally and point blank told him he was crazy. So, I mean, you know, it's different if you do it when you guys are, like, talking amongst one another. But this whole potshot taking that both of them are doing back and forth through the media is really starting to get on my nerves, because what wound up pushing Trump over the edge was McCain attacked a lot of the folks that went to go see one of Trump's speech. I'm still curious to know how many of those were paid for, just saying. But at the same time, you know, Trump's in front of his crowd, starts making a couple of jokes here and there. They get pretty good. And then, of course, you know how Donald is. The ego kicks in, the brain shuts off, and all of a sudden the mouth's in overdrive. The problem with him is, you know, if he didn't mean it the way it was intended, the problem that I always have with Donald is he seems to have this innate character flaw where once whatever he says is what he says, he sticks to it even when he knows he's wrong. And I think that's one of the things that's driving me crazy, because he could have walked this thing back a half a dozen times by now, and he won't do it. I just don't understand it.
Can you get the combination of power, influence, and humbleness? I wonder if we can ever get that blended together.
I don't think we can. Not anymore. I don't honestly think we make them like that anymore. Just to be completely blunt, because you can't. It doesn't ever seem like you can get all three. And honestly, even a lot of times you'll think you're getting all three, but then the humbleness is usually a facade, and then usually a couple of years in, you'll find out that they weren't nearly as humble as they believed they were. I think one of the last folks that I know of, at least in my history, that did it right for the most part was the first George Bush, Bush 41. There were plenty of times he could have taken victory laps like Obama's doing now with the Iran deal, and he didn't do it. There were plenty of times that he could have done that, and he didn't do it. And he knew that if he did it, he was going to alienate people, that it could eventually make things worse for us, because he wouldn't just be alienating the American people, he could possibly be alienating folks like the Russians. That was actually some pretty good insight I had on a recent interview with John Sununu, who actually just finished a book about him. And I asked him those questions because Bush was actually my first experience as an adult voting in an election. Was the second term for Bush. I voted for him. He didn't get in, but that was my first chance pulling the lever, and I voted for him because even though he did say things, you know, like no new taxes and all that fun stuff, I understand that occasionally when you're in a role of leadership, I even understood it then, that occasionally you're going to have to do things that not everybody's going to like. But the simple fact of the matter is, if you really stop and look at it, and this was something else that Governor Sununu pointed out, most of what Clinton took credit for was started under the Bush administration. This is a really large economy, so it takes a really long time to steer things in the right direction. That's what concerns me about the next person that we put in office. If we don't get somebody that's got conservative principles in the office at this point in time, it's going to be decades before we fix the mess, if we can fix it at all.
Yeah, Obamacare, the worst of it is going to happen when he leaves, because he's delayed some of the worst parts of it. And from what I've read, there's still some things left that are going to change, and the damage, like you said, changes in the economy have a lasting effect because of its size. Obamacare is going to destroy the country once the next president's in office. So that's my fear too. If a Republican is in, they're going to face the wake of Obamacare, you know.
Well, how many of us actually, I work for, my day job has me with a very, very large corporation with corporate benefits, and corporate helps you pay your insurance, but I will tell you, my premium has more than doubled, and the quality of my service has been less than cut in half, if not cut in by 3/4 of what it was. So I'm paying for almost nothing unless something majorly happens. You know, the people we're going to be paying for this stuff a very long time. I just pray none of us have a major illness before we can get this stuff fixed, because you may or may not get the coverage you need to get healed.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things that the liberal movement used to tout all the time when they first started talking about bringing about some sort of socialized medicine for the country was how well the VA system worked. Now look at the VA system. Now look at the truth about the VA system. Let's put it that way. I mean, Jared, you actually posted an article the other day, I think it was you anyway, that it said something about there was a vast majority of the folks that were in line waiting for major treatments from the VA that were passing away before they could ever get their treatments. That was you that posted that, right?
Yeah, and it was a government study. It was released. Yeah, and it was a 10-year study. And I didn't retain the numbers, but I was shocked when I read it. So I had to put it on a meme and get an article out about it, because it is disgraceful that, and now I didn't serve in the military, but I'm a patriot. I have the utmost respect for every member that is serving now. So when I see illegals that can walk into any ER and get treated, and I see veterans dying, I see them everywhere homeless, it sickens me to my core that our country is that backwards, that they would treat illegal aliens with many aspects of benefits. They would give better benefits to them than the bravest people that voluntarily go and fight for the country. It just makes me sick.
You know, I honestly, this is going to sound socialistic of me, but this is exactly how I think it ought to be. For people that have done what those folks have done on a daily basis and put their lives on the line, they should be able to come home, and they shouldn't have to worry about house payments, car payments, or medical bills ever again.
Well, yeah, if you flipped it and you took all of that away from people that do nothing and illegals, you could probably afford, we'd be in debt like we are now. But I would rather have veterans getting benefits than people that don't. They earn it by crossing the border illegally, and then, or even legally, then they don't work. It happens. I know that I'm not making a general statement about groups of people. I'm just saying it happens. And our veterans not reap the benefits of.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows it happens. I mean, that's just like the statement that Trump was trying to make when the last time his campaign almost caught on fire, and everybody sided with him anyway. The simple fact of the matter is the Mexican government puts pamphlets out to tell people how to get here, once they get here, what services to apply for, because they know that a good portion of whatever money these folks can manage to bring in, whether it's through benefits, through jobs that are paying them cash, through day labor, is going to go right back into the Mexican economy because they send it home to their families. We have been, by default, supporting the Mexican economy for years, and everybody's fine with it. I'm not. If we're going to be spending that type of money, I would much rather spend it on the people that have put their lives on the line for us to remain free. Nobody's saying they got to have a 50,000 square foot house. I've seen some things in Utah where they have things that are about 200, 300 square feet, enough for a kitchen, a living room, and a bed, that they're giving to homeless people. Why can we not do the same thing for our veterans? If we're going to spend this kind of money, can we stop spending it on people that are breaking the law to get here and spend it on people that have earned it, that have earned our respect, that have earned the right to not have to fight, scrape, and claw anymore, especially if they can't find work. It's different. If they can find work, then fine, let them support themselves. If they can't, then let's support them and let's find a way to put them to work to earn what it is that they're getting so that they don't lose their self-worth at the same time. I don't understand why this is so complicated.
Neither do I.
Sorry, I got on my soapbox.
Amen to that, Phil.
I don't get on my soapbox much, but today's been one of those days. That's been something that's been bugging me for weeks now.
Well, what you're saying is 100% true. We've become almost a quasi-socialist country, and we're not taking care of the people we should, and we're taking care of the people that we shouldn't. And it's falling out of control. And your idea is not far-fetched, and I'd much rather spend it on our military that's fought and bled and died to keep us free versus somebody that's illegally jumping into our country because they can get something for free.
Yeah, but I've always said one of the reasons our country's in the big mess that it is in, and it keeps getting bigger, is because if we actually got the government to fix everything that was broken, we wouldn't need the government as much anymore, and they know it. That's why they like it when everything's as broken as it is, because now they have things to run on. They're like, hey, vote for our side, we'll fix it. And then we get them in power and they fix nothing. Need I remind you that they basically, all the way up through this last runoff, were like, get us in, we'll repeal Obamacare. Get us in, we'll do this. Get us in, we'll do that. They ain't done nothing.
There was a president that once said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for this country. I actually believe he was a Democrat, was he not?
Yeah,
that might be the only Democrat in history with that statement that I say, God bless you, you're right on it.
Well, I mean, let's face it. Back in the day, Democrats weren't the way they are now. They weren't these whole foaming at the mouth liberals. Everything has got to be free, free to be you and me, hug-a-tree hippies. They weren't. I mean, I know plenty of people, even in my home state, that consider themselves Democrats that would be Republicans anywhere else in the country. Now we are starting to get our share of the free to be you and me, hug-a-tree hippies. More power to them, I guess. I mean, I've always said I don't really care whether your beliefs align with mine as long as you are at least in some way politically engaged, because the biggest problem that we have is nobody's really paying attention to anything anymore except for who's going to give me free stuff and how much of it am I going to get.
Well, the only way we win is when everybody, like you just said, takes an active part, stands up, speaks, get involved, bring somebody in and share with them what you believe. I mean, this is the time we've got to stand up for our country, because like Jared said, if we don't take it back this next time, it could be decades upon decades before we get a chance to really reel this thing back in, if we get that chance again.
I actually think this may be our last hurrah if we can't get this pulled off, and I don't say that just because I'm trying to freak out the people that are listening. I honestly believe at this point, if we can't get things turned back the right direction, we're going to have big enough problems. I think we are on the verge of becoming the next Greece on a much larger scale if we don't change our ways really quickly. As much as it scares me to say.
I pray you're wrong, but I feel you're correct.
All right, so we are coming down to the last few minutes. Again, Chris, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody again the different projects that you're working on and how they can find you and how they can connect with you should they choose to do so.
Excellent. My website, again, is called Conceal and Carry Network. It's on the website under the word conceal, the letter N, carry.net. We're going to be a great place to come for sort of information if you're interested in firearms or firearms training or firearms history, or to find an FFL dealer near you. We've got those businesses listed for easy searching. We've got probably one of the best libraries you'll find with podcasters, bloggers, and radio shows like this one you're on today. And you're going to find a lot of information in our library and our best info page. You could spend days and never finish going through our site with the information we've got. We've got a forum that you can join and share some information. But if you run a business, let me say this, get involved. I work for one of the few places that actually supports the Second Amendment financially. You can get a hold of me through my website or email at chris.dixon@mmsllc.com, and we can help you get set up with credit card processing and actually contributes to places like the NRA. If you got a website and you want to sell something online, reach out as well. I can help you there. So basically, if you're in the industry and need help, reach out, ask a question. There's not a dumb one, and I'll help you in any way I can.
Awesome. And yeah, I can relate. I actually have spent days on your site. My wife will be yelling at me because I need to get off the computer, and I'm like, but honey, I'm doing research.
I'm glad you enjoy it. Share it with all your friends.
All right, and Jared, why don't you go ahead and give everybody a quick run-up on what you guys have got going on Red Nation Rising Radio, and I know I'll be the one that will be there, but you still have more information than I do for the moment. So,
oh yeah, Thursday we have the two founders of Four Tier Strategies. They're political consultants, John LaRosa and Brad Marston. Right now they're working with JD Winreg, and they work with Louis Gomer. they've got a lot of great information. They fight hard for conservative candidates, and if you're not busy that night, come into the chat room. You can ask them some questions about really any subject. They're going to be talking about a lot of different stuff, and we'll hope to see you then.
All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this particular episode of America Off the Rails. I'd like to thank Jared and Chris for hanging out with me. Now, just as a reminder, tomorrow night we will have the folks from Voices of Global Freedom Radio, and they'll be talking about global terrorism and some things that they're trying to get started to help combat what they're terming the insurgency here in America. Also, Wednesday we will have Patrick Fernari with us again, author of Commoner Sense, who's going to come on, talk about a couple of recent articles that he's written and a few other things that he wanted to discuss with us. Now, Thursday, I will be on Red Nation Rising Radio. For that night, I will be airing a replay, of course, for America Off the Rails. And then I do believe I will probably be taking Friday off as well, because there's some general manager type things that I have to get done. All right, so at this point, that is going to do it for this particular episode. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, as you always do. Don't forget, if you missed it live, it's available through podcast, iHeart, High Point, Red State Radio, and at this point I'm actually losing track, but we're almost everywhere.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.